2 humans, 1 destiny. And the universe listened to the colony of Drifthaven floated at the edge of known human space. It was small, quiet, and often forgotten. Old metal stations were tied together by thin bridges, and dim lights blinked like tired eyes. Most people there lived simple lives. They repaired ships, moved cargo, or waited for contracts that rarely came. Evan lived alone in a narrow room near Dock 9. He was a cargo pilot, nothing more. He did not dream of glory or power. He only wanted his ship to fly, his payments to arrive on time, and each day to end without trouble. His ship, a worn transport called the Wayfarer, had more patches than original parts. Still, it flew straight, and Evan trusted it more than he trusted people. On the other side of the colony, Rin worked deep inside a signal tower that most people ignored. She was a technician by title, but in truth she studied strange signals that came from beyond mapped space. Many technicians stopped listening when nothing made sense. Rin did not. She believed noise always carried meaning. Someone only had to listen long enough. That belief had already brought her problems. Rin sat in front of a dim console, her eyes focused on moving lines of light. A soft hum filled the room. The signal had been there for months, weak and broken, repeating in a pattern no known language used. Today, something changed. The signal grew stronger. Not louder, but clearer. It felt as if it noticed her. She leaned closer, her breath slow. The signal was not random. It reacted. At the same time, far from the tower, Evan guided the Wayfarer out of Drifthaven. His cargo was simple medical supplies bound for a mining post. The route was old and safe. Evan had flown it many times. Then his ship alarms whispered. Evan frowned and checked the board. No danger, no storms, no ships nearby. Yet the sensors showed a pull ahead, like space itself was bending. He slowed the ship. The pull grew stronger. Space in front of the Wayfarer darkened, not with shadow, but with depth. Evan had no word for it. It was like looking into a hole made of distance. His ship shook, as if resisting a tide. Evan cursed under his breath and tried to turn away. The controls responded, but the pull did not weaken. Instead, the ship slid sideways, drawn toward the dark zone. "On Drifthaven!" Ren gasped as her screens lit up. The signal spiked. Lines of data rushed across her console faster than ever before. For the first time, symbols appeared. Not letters, not numbers, but shapes that felt deliberate. The signal was awake. Ren's hands moved quickly. She began recording everything. Her heart raced. She had waited years for this moment. Then her door slammed open. 2 colony security officers entered. Their faces were tense. "You need to come with us," one said. Ren did not look away from the screen. "You see this?" she said. "This is not normal. It is reacting to something right now." The officer stepped forward and shut down the console. "That is the problem," he replied. Ren stood slowly. Fear crawled into her chest, but so did certainty. Whatever the signal was, others had noticed it too. And they were afraid. Out in space, Evan lost control. The Wayfarer crossed the edge of the dark zone, and the stars vanished. There was no light, no sense of motion. His ship stopped shaking. Silence filled the cabin. Evan sat frozen, his hands tight on the controls. He waited for death, or impact, or something worse. Nothing came. Instead, a soft glow appeared outside the cockpit window. A structure emerged from the darkness. It was massive, smooth, and ancient. No engines, no weapons. It looked less built and more shaped, like stone carved by time itself. Lines of faint light ran across its surface, moving slowly, like breathing. Evan's ship drifted toward it, gentle now, guided rather than forced. Inside the structure, something stirred. Across the galaxy, in halls made of crystal and metal, alien leaders felt the change. Old sensors long ignored began to scream. Ancient records unlocked themselves. One word appeared in many languages. Awakening. They knew the signal. They feared it. Back on Drift Haven, Rin was led through cold corridors to a holding room. The officers would not meet her eyes. She was not charged. She was contained. She sat on a hard bench, her mind racing. The signal had awakened because something changed in space, something human. She whispered to herself, "Someone triggered you." She did not know Evan existed. Evan did not know Rin was listening. Yet the universe had noticed both. Inside the dark structure, the Wayfarer docked without sound. A path of light formed, leading inward. Evan swallowed hard and stood. He was not brave. He was careful. But there was nowhere to run. He stepped inside. The air was warm. The walls glowed softly. As he moved, the light followed him, tracing his shape. He felt exposed, not in body, but in thought. Memories rose without warning. His childhood on a crowded station. His first flight. Every moment he chose survival over heroism. A voice spoke without sound. Not words, but meaning. "You are present." Evan fell to one knee, gasping. He did not understand how he understood, but he did. "I didn't do anything," he said aloud. "I'm just a pilot." The light pulsed. Presence acknowledged. On Drift Haven, alarms rang as unknown ships appeared at the edge of the system. Sleek, sharp, and silent. Alien. The colony froze in fear. Rin felt the vibration through the floor. Her eyes widened. "They're coming," she whispered. She knew then the signal was not just discovered. It was hunted. Inside the ancient structure, symbols formed in the air around Evan. They shifted and aligned, waiting, incomplete. Evan felt it clearly now. Something was missing. Far away, Rin pressed her hands against the wall of her cell. The signal echoed in her mind even without machines. It was waiting. For both of them. And the universe, silent for ages, had begun to listen. Evan stood inside the glowing corridor, his mind racing. The ancient structure pulsed gently as if it were alive. It did not speak in words, but it communicated in feelings. Calm, patience, waiting. Evan did not understand, yet he felt compelled to move forward. He did not know why, but something deep inside told him this place was not meant to harm him. Meanwhile, far away on Drift Haven, Rin struggled with her captors. Mila, the smuggler who had been hiding nearby, had seen the alarms and chaos. She knew the colony would not survive without help. With careful timing, she created a distraction. Lights flickered, doors unlocked, and Rin slipped out into the cold night of the station. They ran through corridors, avoiding guards and automated sensors. Rin's mind raced faster than her legs. She had to reach the hidden zone. She had to find whoever had triggered the signal, though she did not yet know who it was. All her life she had chased mysteries. Now, the mystery had chosen her. In space, Evan reached a central chamber. The walls shimmered with moving symbols. His ship Wayfarer floated silently behind him, unattended, as if the structure itself guided it. Evan approached the largest light circle in the room. When he stepped onto it, the glow expanded, surrounding him entirely. He could feel patterns forming in his thoughts, connecting memories, moments, and choices he had made. The structure seemed to ask questions, and Evan realized he was answering without speaking. It wanted him to understand, to recognize himself. He had flown ships, delivered goods, survived storms, and avoided danger. He had never thought of himself as important, yet the structure acted as if he were. On Drift Haven, Ren and Mila reached the outer docks. Ships were preparing for emergency takeoff. Alien fleets had appeared at the edge of the system, sleek and threatening. No human patrols had the power to stop them. The colonists scrambled, trying to save what they could. Rin scanned her portable console, decoding the signals as she ran. The pattern had intensified when Evan's ship entered the hidden space. It reacted to him, yes, but it also reacted to her presence. Her breath quickened. She understood now. The signal responded to certain humans, and she was one of them. Somehow the signal had recognized both her and Evan, though they had not met. She realized that the ancient builders of the signal had created a test, something waiting for two people, together, to awaken it fully. Evan in the structure felt the presence of another human, though he could not see anyone. A small pulse of recognition brushed his thoughts. He did not understand it, but he felt that someone else was important. Someone else had to come before the structure would reveal its true purpose. Outside, Rin and Mila launched their ship. The alien fleet moved faster than human engines, but the signal's patterns guided them, helping Rin navigate the unseen hazards of the outer space between systems. Each jump through space felt guided by something beyond her understanding. Every calculation she made was assisted by the faint touch of the signal, whispering solutions she could not have found alone. Back inside the structure, Evan reached out to the glowing walls. Light traced the outline of his fingers, and the symbols shifted, forming sequences that seemed to show images of distant stars and ancient battles. Evan realized these were not just images. They were warnings. The galaxy had faced extinction before, and the structure had survived all of it. It had waited for someone like him. Rin's ship moved at breakneck speed, weaving through asteroid fields and avoiding alien sensors. Her thoughts were a storm of fear, hope, and determination. If she reached the hidden space zone, she might finally see what had drawn her for so long. The signal that had haunted her dreams was no longer distant. It was calling her directly. Her hands shook on the controls, but she pressed forward. Inside the structure, Evan's senses sharpened. He could feel the flow of energy, the way time and space shifted slightly as he moved. The structure seemed alive, not in a way that could harm, but in a way that demanded understanding. He realized it was preparing him, training him to respond to something much larger than himself. He was not a pilot here. He was a key. At the edge of human space, Rin's ship entered the dark zone. Stars disappeared around her, replaced by a calm void. She held her breath. She had never seen anything like this. Her instruments failed to detect direction or motion, but she felt the signal. It wrapped around her like a quiet hand, guiding her toward a distant light. Then, the structure appeared before her, massive and smooth, with glowing lines that pulsed in a pattern she recognized from her signals. Rin's heart raced. She did not know who was inside, but she sensed a human presence, someone important. Evan turned at the soundless shift of the energy around him. He felt the arrival of another human. He could not see her, yet he knew she was near. The structure reacted instantly. Light expanded, connecting the central chamber to the outer entrance. The glow traced paths through the air, almost beckoning. Rin's ship docked with the structure as Evan watched. The lights adjusted, guiding her through the entrance. She stepped onto the glowing floor, her eyes wide with awe. The structure's energy seemed to recognize her, like a long-lost friend noticing a familiar face. For a moment, both humans stood still, each sensing the other without a word. The structure pulsed, acknowledging both of them. It was alive, but it was not cruel. It waited, patient, for understanding, for unity, for the choice they had yet to realize they were about to make. Outside the structure, alien fleets remained on the edge of the system. They did not yet understand the nature of what they pursued. They only knew humans were inside the zone, and humans had always been unpredictable. They began preparing to strike, unaware that their actions might be irrelevant. Inside, Evan and Rin finally saw each other. No introductions were needed. The recognition passed silently between them. They were two humans, chosen by something far greater than themselves, something that had been waiting for centuries. The structure reacted. Symbols floated in the air, forming a bridge of light between Evan and Rin. They felt memories, choices, and responsibilities pressing gently upon them. Each of them understood instinctively that their presence together was not coincidence. The first phase of awakening was complete. The structure had acknowledged the humans it had waited for. It had not yet revealed its purpose, but it had prepared them. And beyond the edges of known space, the universe began to stir in response to their unity. For Evan and Rin, the journey had only begun. They did not yet know the challenges ahead, the decisions they would have to make, or the enemies who would try to stop them. But the signal had chosen them. The structure had recognized them, and for the first time both humans understood that they were no longer small, quiet lives in a forgotten corner of space. They were central to a destiny that had been listening across the universe for centuries. The light inside the structure softened after Evan and Rin stood facing each other. The glow no longer rushed or pulsed fast. It slowed, as if satisfied. Symbols floated around them, forming wide circles that moved gently through the air. Neither human spoke at first. Words felt small in a place like this. Evan broke the silence. "I'm Evan," he said quietly. His voice echoed only inside his own head, yet Rin understood him clearly. The structure carried the meaning. "I'm Rin," she replied. Her fear had not vanished, but it no longer ruled her. Standing here, she felt steadier than she ever had before. The structure reacted again. Images filled the air. Not dreams, not illusions, but records. Rin recognized the pattern instantly. It was history, stored and preserved. Evan felt it too, though he lacked the words to describe it. Stars formed and collapsed. Civilizations rose and vanished. Species fought, conquered, and destroyed themselves. The message was clear. This had happened many times before. Rin stepped closer to one of the floating images. "This place is older than any known race," she said. It watched the universe repeat the same mistakes. Evan nodded slowly. "And now it's watching us." Beyond the dark zone, alien fleets moved closer. Among them was a command vessel larger than the rest. Inside it stood Extract Koro, a hardened commander with cold eyes and rigid posture. He studied the reports in silence. Ancient warnings glowed on his screen. "The signal has awakened," one officer said. "2 humans are inside the zone." Koro's jaw tightened. "Then the humans must be removed," he replied. "No exceptions." Some officers shifted uneasily. Old records spoke of consequences. Koro dismissed them all. "Fear is not wisdom," he said, "and humans are weak." Back inside the structure, Evan felt a change. The calm shifted into pressure. Not pain, but urgency. The structure showed them another vision, a council of alien races arguing, lying, hiding truths. Rin understood instantly. Many alien leaders knew about this structure. They had hidden its existence to protect their power. They were afraid of this, Rin said. Afraid of losing control. Evan clenched his fists. He had lived under systems that did not care about people like him. He recognized fear disguised as order. The structure revealed another truth. It did not choose rulers or warriors. It chose balance. It waited for a species that could act without domination. Humans were not strong. Humans were divided. But humans could choose. On the edge of human space, panic spread. Alien ships destroyed navigation relays and communication hubs with cold precision. Colonies went dark. Messages of surrender flooded human networks. On Earth and distant stations, leaders argued. Some demanded that Evan and Rin be handed over to save the rest. Others refused, saying no alien had the right to decide humanity's fate. A small group acted without permission. Old ships, poorly armed but filled with determined crews, launched toward the dark zone. They were not soldiers. They were miners, pilots, engineers. People who believed that giving up 2 humans would mean giving up everything. Inside the structure, Rin felt the shift in the wider galaxy. She placed a hand on the glowing wall. "They're coming," she said. "Both sides." Evan looked at her. "We never asked for this." "No," Rin replied. "But it asked for us," the structure responded. A deep vibration spread through the chamber. Symbols rearranged themselves, forming paths and connections. It was preparing the next stage. Suddenly the calm broke. A violent shock rippled through the structure. The lights flickered. Evan staggered, grabbing a railing that formed from light beneath his hand. Rin gasped as alarms unlike any human sound echoed. Koro had ordered the attack. Alien weapons struck the edge of the dark zone, tearing at space itself. The structure absorbed the first blows, but each impact sent tremors through its core. "They're attacking it," Evan said. Rin's face hardened. "They don't understand what they're hitting." Another vision appeared. This one was a warning. If the structure was destroyed before completion, The collapse would not be controlled. Entire regions of space would fold in on themselves. Millions could die, Evan whispered. The structure pushed knowledge into them both. Not commands, not orders. Possibility. It showed them that it could respond, but only through them. It would not act alone. Outside, human resistance ships arrived. They were tiny compared to the alien fleet. Their weapons barely scratched alien shields. Yet they did not retreat. They placed themselves between the alien fleet and the Dark Zone. Koro watched in disbelief. "They are wasting their lives," he said. "No," one officer murmured. "They are choosing." Koro ignored him and ordered heavier fire. Inside the structure, Evan felt something ignite within him. Not anger, but resolve. He had spent his life avoiding danger. Now he stood at the center of it. "We have to do something," he said. Ren nodded. "But not with force. That's not what this place is for." The structure responded to their agreement.
Light surged, stabilizing the chamber. Evan and Ren felt themselves change.
Their understanding widened. They could feel ships, lives, fear, and hope across the system. They were not becoming gods. They were becoming aware. The attack intensified. Cracks of energy spread across the structure's outer shell. Time seemed to stretch. Every second felt heavy. The structure presented a final image. Two paths diverging. One path showed them pushing back the alien fleet, asserting control, ruling through power. The universe survived, but fear remained. The other path showed sacrifice, truth, and balance. No rulers, no masters, only consequence. Rin's eyes filled with tears. "There's no easy choice," she said. Evan looked at the images, then at the human ships holding the line. "There never is." The structure waited. Outside, Koro prepared the final strike. Inside, two humans stood at the center of a decision that would shape everything that followed. The universe leaned closer, listening. The structure shook again as another wave of force struck its outer edge. Light rippled through the walls like water after a stone fell. Evan and Rin struggled to stay on their feet. The calm presence they had felt before was still there, but now it carried strain. The structure was strong, but it was not endless. Outside, the human resistance ships burned one by one. They were small and slow, but they did not turn away. Each ship placed itself in the path of alien fire, buying seconds, sometimes only moments. Those moments mattered. Inside the command vessel, Koro watched the battle with cold focus. "Increase pressure," he ordered. "The structure must fall before it finishes." He did not say what would happen if it did finish. He did not want to think about it. Inside the structure, Rin pressed her hand to the glowing floor. Data flowed into her mind faster than ever before. She gasped as she understood more of the truth. "This place was never meant to fight," she said. "It was meant to teach." Evan steadied himself beside her. "Teach who?" "All of us," Rin answered. "But only if we listen." The structure responded to their shared understanding. The violent shaking lessened for a moment. Symbols rose around them, clearer now. They showed not just the past, but the present. Alien leaders lying to their people, human leaders hiding behind fear. Power built on silence. "This is why they are afraid," Evan said. "Not because of destruction, but because of truth." The structure guided them forward into a deeper chamber. The light there was softer, warmer. At the center floated a sphere of energy, steady and bright. Evan felt drawn to it, not by force, but by trust. Bryn's voice trembled. "This is the core." As they approached, the universe outside reacted. Across many systems, strange signals appeared on every frequency. Ships from neutral alien races slowed and stopped, confused by sudden waves of information. Old records unlocked. Forbidden histories revealed themselves. Truth spread faster than fear. Koro's officers began arguing among themselves. Some demanded retreat. Others questioned old commands passed down for generations. Koro silenced them with a raised hand. "Do not listen," he said. This is a human trick. But doubt had already taken root. Inside the structure, Evan and Rin stood before the core. The structure did not speak. It showed them choice. If they linked fully with the core, they would lose the chance to return to normal life. Their thoughts would stretch across systems. Their actions would carry weight far beyond human scale. If they refused, the structure would shut down. The alien fleets would destroy it. The cycle of power and war would continue. Rin closed her eyes. She saw Drift Haven. She saw people running, hiding, hoping. She saw the signal tower where she had listened alone for so long. "I was never meant to live quietly," she said. "I just did not know what I was listening for." Evan thought of his ship, his small room, his simple dreams. He felt fear, sharp and honest, but he also felt something new. Purpose. "I spent my life avoiding risk," he said. "Maybe that is why this place chose me. Because I know the cost." They reached for the core together. The moment their hands touched the light, the structure changed. Energy flowed outward in smooth waves. The attacks from outside slowed, then weakened. Space itself seemed to resist further damage. Evan and Rin felt themselves expand. Not in body, but in awareness. They could sense fear in the alien fleet. Confusion in human command centers. Hope in places that had almost given up. They did not control these feelings. They witnessed them. The structure began to speak more clearly now, not as words, but as understanding. Power taken creates resistance. Power shared creates balance. Koro felt the shift immediately. His command vessel trembled as systems failed without damage. Weapons powered down. Shields flickered. "What is happening?" he demanded. No one answered. Across the battlefield, alien ships hesitated. Human ships, battered and burning, found their engines stabilizing. The fight slowed, not because of orders, but because the will to continue faded. Inside the structure, Rin cried softly. "They can feel it," she said. "The truth. They cannot ignore it."
Evan nodded.
"Neither can we." The structure showed them one last truth. This awakening was not the end. It was the beginning of responsibility. Balance would not hold itself. It would require constant care. Rin looked at Evan. "Are you afraid?" "Yes," he answered honestly. "But I would be more afraid if we walked away." Together, they accepted the link. Outside, the alien fleet fell silent. Koro watched in disbelief as his authority dissolved. Orders no longer carried weight. His own officers looked at him with questioning eyes. "You were wrong," one of them said quietly. Koro said nothing. Across the galaxy, the signal changed tone. It no longer called. It spoke, not loudly, not with force, but with clarity. Every species heard it in a way they could understand. War paused. Inside the structure, Evan and Rin stood at the center of flowing light. They were still human. They still felt fear and doubt. But they were also more. They had not conquered the universe. They had reminded it how to listen. And the universe at last was paying attention. The calm after the first wave of energy did not last. Space felt alive around Evan and Rin, pulsing with knowledge and intent. Every star, every ship, every conscious being seemed to respond to their presence. They did not speak commands. They only felt. And the universe, listening, began to adjust. The alien fleets that had attacked were no longer moving with the same purpose. Some ships hesitated, others turned back. Koro, still aboard his command vessel, could feel his controls slipping. Every order he gave was met with silence, confusion, or refusal. His weapons remained online. But the crews did not fire. They looked at each other with fear and doubt. Rin pressed her hands against the core of the structure, feeling the flow of energy. Her mind expanded, stretching to the edges of nearby systems. She could feel the humans who had risked everything to reach this place. The resistance fighters now frozen in space, their hearts beating fast. She felt the aliens too. The commanders, the soldiers, even those who did not want the war. Everyone was connected in a web of awareness that was older than any race. Evan stood beside her. He had always avoided responsibility. He had flown ships, carried cargo, and stayed out of trouble. Yet now he understood that this moment was larger than anything he had imagined. Every choice he had made, every act of caution, had brought him here. And now every act of courage mattered, not just for him, but for all life around them. The structure pulsed more strongly, reacting to their unified presence. Symbols formed around them, showing possibilities, consequences, and balance. Evan realized that the next step required more than just awareness. Action was necessary, but not in the way of weapons or force. It was understanding, decision, and unity. He looked at Rin. "We can't force anyone," he said. "We can't make choices for them. Only guide, only show what is possible." Rin nodded. "They need to see the truth themselves. Only then will it last." Outside, Koro's fleet had split. Some ships hesitated, some waited. Neutral races began to slow their approach, sensing the shift. Some alien civilians watching from distant systems experienced an awakening of their own. They saw messages of past mistakes, of hidden truths. The universe was no longer blind. On a small human transport, pilot crews realized their weapons had no effect, yet their fear was replaced with hope. They did not understand what was happening, but they felt the pause. They felt that the battle was not theirs to win with force, and that was enough to keep them alive. Inside the structure, Evan and Rin felt every heartbeat, every thought. They did not control it, but they could guide it with intent, with care. They saw the consequences of domination, the cost of violence, and the possibility of balance. The structure offered clarity, but it demanded wisdom. Rin pressed further into the core. The lights rose, bathing them in golden glow. She could feel Koro's fear and pride. She could sense every officer who had doubted him, every crew member who wanted peace. It was overwhelming, but it was manageable. They were two humans, yet they were connected to everything. Evan realized something he had never considered. Humans were not the strongest. Humans were unpredictable. Weak in strength, yet capable of choice. They could act against fear, against control. And that was why the structure had chosen them. Not for power, not for dominance, but for the potential to act wisely where others could not. Koro screamed orders, but his voice seemed distant, meaningless. The structure did not harm him, but it made him see himself clearly. He could not lie, he could not control, and he could not escape. His empire of fear began to crumble in moments. The humans outside the structure saw the change first as hesitation. Then, slowly, they noticed the alien ships lowering weapons, engines powering down. Space itself seemed to breathe, stretching with a sense of relief. The battle that had threatened billions ended not with death, but with stillness. Evan turned to Rin. "We have done it, but it is not over." Rin nodded. "No! This is just the beginning. Awareness is the first step. Balance must be maintained. The choice to act wisely must continue." The structure pulsed, transferring more knowledge into them. They saw conflicts that were not theirs yet, problems that would appear generations later. They saw species that would rise, fall, and rise again. Every thread was connected. Every act mattered. Together, Evan and Ren extended their awareness gently, guiding the energy outward, not with control, but with understanding. The alien fleets adjusted. Neutral observers saw truth. The humans in the outer systems breathed easier. Space shifted subtly, aligning itself without destruction. Koro, stripped of authority, was left to contemplate. His pride, his power, his fear. They all dissolved in understanding he could not control. He had sought to dominate, to destroy, yet the universe showed him that balance was not enforced. It was chosen. The structure stabilized fully now. Evan and Rin remained inside, no longer just individuals, but witnesses and guides. They had accepted the cost. They would never return to simple lives, yet they were alive, aware, and purposeful. Across the galaxy, the ripple of understanding continued. Old wars paused, new possibilities arose. The universe did not end conflict, but it offered choice. The structure had awakened, and the humans had become its living extension. Not rulers, not gods, only guides. Ren looked at Evan. We did not conquer. We reminded them. Evan nodded. We reminded the universe how to listen. Outside, stars seemed brighter. Systems once at war breathed. Unknown civilizations paused and reflected. Life, fragile and resilient, continued. Two humans had chosen unity over fear, and the universe, vast and silent for eons, had listened. The universe did not immediately change. It did not bloom with light or sing with harmony. Instead, it paused, listening. Evan and Rin remained inside the structure, the glow of the core bathing them in warm light. Every star, every ship, every life form seemed to feel their presence, even if only faintly. The scale of awareness was beyond comprehension, yet they did not falter. They understood the final truth. Their journey was not about victory. It was about balance, understanding, and guidance. Every choice mattered, but not by force. They could not control species, fleets, or empires. They could only act as reminders, as witnesses, as anchors of reason and awareness. Evan reached out to Rin. Their hands met and the structure responded instantly. Waves of energy flowed outward, like water spreading across a calm surface. The pulse carried no aggression, only clarity. Ships in the outer systems felt it, instinctively pausing. Battles that had raged across sectors came to a quiet halt. Alien fleets drifted in neutral space. Human-resistant ships floated in relief. The galaxy held its breath. Koro's command vessel hovered at the edge of the dark zone. The commander's face was pale. He could feel the changes, but he could not comprehend them fully. His weapons were useless, his orders ignored. Pride and power dissolved, leaving only a hollow understanding of limits. He could see the humans inside the structure, the two who had not fought to conquer, yet whose presence had stopped wars. Rin whispered, "It's working. They're listening." Evan nodded, his eyes never leaving the glow of the core. Not just listening, they're remembering what it means to choose. Time seemed to stretch. Seconds became minutes, minutes became hours, yet Evan and Rin did not tire. The structure provided energy and understanding. They felt the weight of every life, every choice, but they also felt hope. They had learned patience, restraint, and clarity. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations paused to consider. Systems at war now had the space to reflect. Leaders who had relied on fear and lies faced the truth of their actions. Neutral species, long hidden, realized the balance they could now maintain. The universe did not force peace, but it presented the possibility. Inside, the structure showed Evan and Rin the countless cycles of the past. They saw worlds rise and fall, species repeat mistakes, and civilizations vanish due to pride and aggression. The builders of the structure had left warnings, knowledge, and guidance. They had waited for humans not because humans were strong, but because humans could act against fear. Evan spoke softly. We were never meant to rule, only to remind. Rin smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. And remind we did. The core pulsed one last time. Symbols formed in the air around them, weaving together histories, choices, and possibilities. Every thread connected. Every life mattered. Evan and Rin became the living memory, the anchors of awareness that the structure had waited for across centuries. Beyond the dark zone, alien fleets began retreating, not out of fear, but from understanding. Koro watched as his empire's influence waned. Pride could no longer drive him. The humans had not conquered, yet they had changed the cosmos. A silent acknowledgement passed through him. He could resist, but the lesson had already been made clear. Human-resistant ships returned to their systems carrying tales of hope. Colonies that had feared destruction learned that survival came not from weapons, but from choice, courage, and unity. Messages spread slowly, yet inevitably, showing that humans could act wisely even in the face of overwhelming odds. Evan and Rin understood that they would never return to simple lives. The core had bonded with them. Their awareness, their responsibility, and their connection to the structure would remain. Yet they felt no fear. Instead, they felt clarity and purpose. They had become more than themselves, but they remained human. They stepped to the center of the chamber. The structure adjusted, light embracing them. Evan looked at Ren. "Do you think the universe will remember?" Ren nodded.
"It already has, and it will continue to listen, as long as we remind it."
The structure's energy shifted, sending gentle waves across the galaxy. Planets, ships, and stars pulsed subtly, realigning. The balance of choice had been restored, not by force, but by awareness. The universe itself seemed to exhale, as if relieved to finally be understood. For the first time, the galaxy experienced a quiet moment of peace. It was fragile, yet real. Not imposed by weapons, not enforced by rulers, but chosen by understanding. Humans had reminded life of what it meant to choose. The structure had fulfilled its purpose. Evan and Ren had fulfilled theirs. They stood together looking at the flow of light and energy, knowing that their journey had changed everything, not because they had conquered, but because they had listened, and the universe had listened back. Outside, stars continued to shine, planets rotated, and life endured. Alien fleets moved quietly. Human colonies began rebuilding, stronger in spirit than ever. Messages of truth and hope spread to the farthest corners of the galaxy. And all of it carried the quiet memory of two humans, one destiny, and a universe that had finally listened.